we need to talk about golf. Wait, what? No, not that golf. This golf. You know, the game your Scottish granddad loves more than you. Anyway, in the weird world of golf, there's this guy called Ben Hogan. And although he's completely unrelated to Hulk Hogan, he's arguably just as successful, winning 9 major championships during his career. What was his secret to success? Practice.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
But not just any form of practice, Allen Iverson. Deliberate practice. You see, Ben Hogan practiced so much, he's been credited with inventing it. When he was playing golf, it practically consumed him. It didn't matter if he was playing in a tournament or just hitting the balls by himself on a golf course somewhere. He couldn't get enough of it. So much so that he began leapfrogging all of his peers in competition. He took practice so seriously, his golf swing transformed into something of pure perfection. No one had seen anything like it before. His study of the game was so advanced, he could understand it like no one else could. You know how modern sports like basketball, football, baseball are all dominated by analytics and advanced stats? Well, Ben Hogan was doing all of that stuff in his own mind while he was playing. He broke down each piece of the game to figure out how he could get a competitive edge. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a fan of golf, and my granddad is still really disappointed in me. But if I could compare it to something I do like, Ben Hogan treated golf much like Kobe Bryant treated basketball. Kobe used to study different release points in his shooting motion. He used to analyze his defender's defensive tendencies to see how he could exploit them. He tested different shooting angles all over the court and found the shots that he could score a high percentage of the time. Ben Hogan was doing all of this as well, just in the world of golf. And as a result, no one could keep up with him. His methods were so effective, he became the gold standard of how all future professionals would approach the game, including the consensus greatest of all time, Tiger Woods. That method is deliberate practice. Aye, that's great, pal, but what is that? Don't worry, man, I'll tell you. Most people think deliberate practice is just doing the same thing over and over again. But like I said in my previous video about the repeated bout effect, that is not the case. If you want to watch it, just click the first link in the description. Instead, deliberate practice is practice with a clear purpose. It's practice being done to improve your performance, regardless of what you're doing. Let's use guitar as an example. If you want to practice the guitar, cool. But if you want to practice the guitar deliberately, even cooler. Normal practice is doing stuff you've already done before. Deliberate practice is honing in on a specific part of the guitar and focusing all of your efforts on improving that one thing. Maybe it's palm muting. Maybe it's practicing Eddie Van Halen's finger tapping technique. Whatever it is, you want to be fully focused on it. Because without focus, you're When you first start doing something, showing up is enough. You're a beginner and you're doing something new, and that takes guts. But after a while, showing up just isn't going to cut it. To understand why, you need to watch my repeated bout effect video. Again, first link in the description. Watch it after this video. For now, all you need to know is what gets you to point A won't necessarily take you to point B, and will definitely not take you to point C. Which is why, after you become a master of showing up, you need to take things a step further. And while doing this, you need to keep battling your brain's tendency to turn things into automatic habits. Don't get me wrong, automatic habits can be useful for things like tying your shoelaces. But when it comes to becoming a master of a certain skill, it actually does more harm than good. Why? Because when you allow your brain to turn something into a default action, by definition, it becomes mindless. And mindless action is the polar opposite of deliberate practice. In fact, some might say they're arch rivals. Think about it. When you do something over and over again, you naturally assume that you're getting better at the thing. But oftentimes, that's not what's happening at all. Instead, all you're doing is reinforcing a habit, not improving on it. Now don't get me wrong, it's much better to have a mindless habit of going to the gym than it is, injecting heroin or eating loads of cake. But if you want to see progress in the gym, just showing up isn't going to do it for you. You can't be mindless. You must practice mindfully and deliberately. Oh, sound pal, aye, that's great, but what does it actually look like? Like, you've sold me on it, pal. Clearly, it's deliberate practice. It's really important that we get it right, but can you give us some examples, like? What? Yeah, sure, no worries. Here, oh, one more thing, mate. You're really attractive, you know that? What? Aye, mate, I mean it, you're a very attractive young lad. Are you doing anything later? You fancy going to get a wee cheeky bite to eat with me, Here are some examples of deliberate practice in action. Benjamin Franklin wasn't born a brilliant writer. He became one. How? By hand copying writing he thought was good. After doing that a few times, he started dissecting the things he was reading. He'd read a sentence and he would write out what he meant, analysing it from a meta perspective. Then he started practicing by doing something different. He'd read an article he'd like and try to rewrite it from memory in his own words. Afterwards, he would compare his version to the original to see how they differed and how they could be improved upon, either his one or the old one. Before doing all these things, he sucked. He was not a good writer by his own words. After doing all these things, and after doing them for a considerable amount of time, he became really good. That's deliberate practice in action. Another example. Look at any high-level UFC fighters. Without deliberate practice, these guys would not be competing at the highest level of combat. Most UFC fighters tend to be really good at one thing. Some UFC fighters tend to be pretty good at a lot of things, but the best UFC fighters, they are good at everything and are masters of one specific thing that no one else can compete with. Those are the Khabibs of this world, the Islam Makhachevs, the Tom Aspinalls, and it's their specific edges that make them better than everyone else. In order for Khabib to become the wrestler he became, he had to deliberately practice. He wrestled his peers all the time. He wrestled in blistering heat. He wrestled in the freezing cold. He even wrestled bears, for crying out loud. Either way, his wrestling abilities were unmatched in the octagon because of his deliberate practice and mastery. And by mastering that one skill, he was able to smash his way through the entire UFC. Send me location. Lastly, let's look at art. John Lennon and Paul McCartney are famous for their songwriting skills. But in order for them to become amazing songwriters, they had to deliberately practice writing songs. They weren't just these geniuses as soon as they came out of the womb. That's not what happened. If that was the case, then you wouldn't have seen any progression from Please Please Me to albums like Revolver and Abbey Road. They would sound exactly the same, but they don't. They sound very different. Why? Because they were always trying to get better. The Beatles' pursuit of musical mastery was deliberate practice in a nutshell. Get good at writing 4-chord songs? Cool, let's try and add some key changes. Paul, I think we're pretty good at writing key changes now. Oh, that's great, John. Let's start messing around with time signatures. That's sorted. Yeah, I think so, Paul. Now, let's start playing around with other instruments. I think we could get really good. Done that? Yeah, sweet. Now John, let's see what we can create with the studio. Let's come up with some sounds no one's ever heard before, etc, etc. As you can see, deliberate practice is not a mystery. It always follows the same pattern. 1. Break the process down into small parts. 2. Find where you're falling short. 3. Test different strategies for different sections. 4. Integrate what you've learnt into the overall process. But with that said, there is something else that takes you over the edge and will help you improve much faster. What's that, Paul? Feedback, my love. Good old-fashioned feedback. Unfortunately, there's no other way around it. If you want to get better, you need feedback. Whether it's by writing like Benjamin Franklin, or shooting a basketball like Kobe Bryant. All people trying to master their skills need feedback. And although there are loads of ways to get it, I'm just going to focus on two. The first form of feedback is simple: measurement. If you actively measure something, clearly it's something that's important to you. For example, if you have a little notebook where you note down all of the exercises you do in the gym, as well as log the reps and the sets, clearly that's something you value. And seeing as this thing is important to you and you're measuring it, you'll have more than enough accountability to keep going. By measuring, you can actively see if you're getting better or worse. If you're getting worse, you know you have to change something. If you're getting better, that's more motivation for you to keep it up. The next form of feedback is coaching. If you have a coach, you basically have someone forcing you to deliberately practice a skill. And this is actually something a lot of elite performers have. Let's look at Kobe Bryant again. Most people think that players like Kobe, the best players of their generations, don't need any coaching, right? Wrong. It's actually very common for NBA players to get coached by former players who used to dominate when they were playing. While Kobe was a young player, he would always ask the veterans he looked up to for advice, especially Michael Jordan. During the summer, he'd seek help from players like Hakeem Olajuwon to improve his post moves and other areas of his game. The final result was Kobe becoming an even more unstoppable basketball player. Now, does this mean you need to break the bank for a coach? Not necessarily. All it means is having a coach to track your progress, find small ways you can improve, and keep you accountable during the tough times is a very effective method for getting better at something. If you want me to coach you through your online writing journey, there's a link in the description. But now, we need to talk about something crucial. The scary reality is, humans are a problem. It's actually jaw-dropping to see how good people can become at things. To see what they can create, to see what they can master, to see how good they can become. Whether it be art, tennis, or dunking a basketball. It's absolutely remarkable what humans are capable of doing in these constructed domains they've created. But even deeper than that, this isn't reserved for the highest level of performers in the world. Just think back to when you were a baby. You don't remember it, but there was literally a time where you used to crawl around everywhere. That's all you knew. That was your mode of transportation. You didn't know anything else. But then one day you thought to yourself, what the hell am I doing? Mum's walking on her feet, Dad's walking on his feet, why aren't I walking on my feet? And then you started trying to walk. Sure, you probably fell over a few times, you probably got some bruises, you may have even cried a little bit. But it didn't matter, because now you're walking. And you were able to do that as a baby. Think about it. As a baby, you were able to experience a quantum leap in progress. A feat of progress that completely changed the way you move around in the world. And now, as an adult, there's no stopping you from doing it with things that are important to you. All you have to do is improve in the correct way. And that way is deliberate practice. Now obviously, this is a lot easier said than done. If dunking a basketball was easy, everyone would be able to do it. But there's a reason why there are very few people who make it to the NBA, let alone who are able to dunk a basketball ferociously. It's called deliberate practice, not pleasant practice. And there's nothing pleasant about it most of the time. In fact, there will be times when you feel really frustrated. You'll have moments where you want to quit completely because it just doesn't feel like anything is happening for you. Being focused and concentrated on something isn't easy anyway, let alone in this modern world where your attention is used for profit and it's needed for profit. There are vested interests trying to keep you distracted. So to concentrate and focus in that environment is doing it on hard mode. Just understand that to be a practitioner of deliberate practice, you are signing up for a life of endless learning. You're committing to a life of exploration, of experimentation, and inevitably, mastery. Deliberate practice is not a magic pill that will make you a millionaire with a six-pack overnight. But if you can do it, if you can be committed and stay focused, and if you can hone in on the goals you want to achieve and the skills you want to develop, you will maximize your abilities. And in most cases, that's all you'll ever need. Remember to watch my repeated bout effect video. It's the first link in the description. I've got links to free resources as well that you can take advantage of. They're all there, as well as my link for private coaching. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.